Oye Belterlowda y Inyalowda. Today we are counting down my top 10 kills from the Expanse novels. Now, if you're unsure about the difference between a death and a kill, allow me to try and explain. So firstly, a kill insinuates murder, and not all deaths are murder, but that's not the defining factor. I'll try and put that factor into words, but let's just use an example first. So, Boromir's death was a death, but Lurtz was a kill. John Wick's dog was a death, but everyone that Keanu drops in those films are a kill, minus maybe the main baddies. I don't know, I still haven't actually got around to watching a single one of them yet, but I'm sure they're wicked. Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan, death. The sniper pinning him down, kill. See, there's a pattern, right? Bill Murray in Zombieland, death. Every zombie in the film, kill. I think impact on the story and audience, as well as how much time spent with the character and whose side they are on, are clearly important in differentiating between the two. So let's just say death to me is about the emotional side and how it makes me feel, whereas the kill is more about entertainment and the actual action taken itself, okay? I hope I made that clear enough. Now, God willing, I stick to my own criteria, as while a few of these do have some emotional weight, it was the kill itself that got them on this list and the satisfaction it gave me. Now, unlike the big deaths of the series, there is there is a lot of awesome kills I'm bound to have missed due to their unimportance and speed in which they happened, etc. So feel free to point them out in the comments, but these are the ones that I definitely remembered. So let's jump in, shall we? Once again, I'm going to start with some honourable mentions, but before those, I'd like to give a shout out to a death that, in total honesty, I'd forgotten about until I was writing this list, and I should have definitely given it an honourable mention in my last video, and that is of poor Shed Garvey. This was a total holy shit moment, and both a prime example of how incredibly violent and unpredictable the series can be, as well as one of those moments that really sucked me into the show and was just as powerful in the book, and so I shall read it to you. The dodger began to ring like a gong struck over and over again by a massive hammer. Return fire. The Gauss round that killed Shed Garvey didn't even make a noise. Like a magic trick, two perfectly round holes appeared on either side of the room in a line that intersected with Shed's couch. One moment, the medic was there. The next, his head was gone from the Adam's apple up. Arterial blood pumped out in a red cloud, pulled into two thin lines and whirled through the holes in the walls of the room as the air rushed out. Great death. But now, let's get to the kills. So, starting off the honourable mentions is the Protogen Pizza Lady, as I've so named her. When Holden and his crew, along with Prax and the Pinkwater team, find the secret lab on Ganymede, there is a brief standoff before Prax loses it and accidentally starts a gunfight. The main, stern-faced, arrogant scientist lady, who continued eating pizza during the whole standoff, has her jaw shot to fucking shit. Gross, but awesome. Next we have the crew of the Arbogast. So very similar to the show, the Arbogast is almost instantly stripped apart down to its very nuts and bolts above Venus by the protomolecule in an awesome and terrifying display of power. Obviously, the crew die of vacuum exposure. And then we have Coop. A dislikable character from the get-go, Coop is the head of the terrorist faction that blew up the landing pad on Ilus. When Mertry and his crew arrive, Coop runs his mouth off and threatens Mertry. Big mistake! Mertry draws his pistol and shoots Coop right in the eye then and there. At first I was like, yeah, this guy's a bad man, but of course we later learn he's a damn psycho. And speaking of Mertry and Cybola Burn, we have Chandra Way. While the show made it explicit, I remember Way and Amos's relationship being a lot more subtle and ambiguous in the book. Mertry uses it to his advantage, however, having Way distract Amos while he gets the jump on him. Amos tries to talk her out of it, but when she continues to resist, he blows her the fuck away with his shotgun. Doesn't even think about it. Classic Amos. And then we have Lieutenant Kasich. Kasich was Santiago's aide, and during the first rebel attack on Medina after Laconia took over, Santiago watched in confusion as Kasich went still and spat raspberry pie at him, only to learn the bullet went through the back of his skull and out of his mouth, destroying his tongue and teeth and lips on the way. Gross, but awesome. And finally, we have the crew of the Heart of the Tempest. As I talked about in my best deaths list, the Heart of the Tempest shrugged off all the combined power of Sol System, including a nuke, but was entirely eviscerated when Bobby shoved the taste of their own medicine, antimatter, right up their fucking ass. So that's the honourable mentions out the way, now on to the list. Number 10, Protogen's Ganymede team. So starting off the list is one of Amos Burton's many nonchalant kills. This one in fact does have some serious consequences in the main scheme of things, but I'm concentrating on the actual moment itself. I put it last because even though I love it, it would probably make top 5 to be honest, but there isn't one single character whose death grants catharsis. So yeah, number 10 to start the list. During the standoff with Protogen's Ganymede team, they come to a doorway which the scientists are using as a choke point. While discussing their battle plan, a grenade rolls through from Protogen's side. As blasé as ever, Amos simply picks the grenade up and tosses it back where it came from, presumably killing a whole bunch of scientists, but more importantly, blowing open the container that held a protomolecule hybrid / super soldier, which escapes and begins to rip everything apart in its path before escaping. It's a fucking great scene, but the indifference and collected manner in which Amos just scoops up the grenade and returns it is as wicked and memorable as the whole chapter is. Number 9, Admiral Wynne. Admiral Wynne was a co-conspirator of Sadavir Ehrenreich. When Holden, after escaping the newly improved vomit zombies, finds him in the Agatha King CIC, he refuses to give over the bioweapon launch vehicle remote codes unless Holden agrees to give him a ride off the ship. Jim outright refuses, telling him he can either give them over because there's still some humanity left in him, or because he's fucking dead. It's his choice. Wynne tries to debate, but Holden shoots him in the throat mid-sentence. There's no time for this asshole's antics. Holden imagines Miller nodding in approval, and is comforted by Naomi's consent too. And you know what? I also endorse that shit. Fuck that asshole, he did deserve to die. Number 8, Colonel Illich. Now, while I do respect Duarte and his Laconian Empire to a degree, I can't help but wish them all a nice death, excluding, of course, the innocents who were dragged along or born there, but predominantly the fuckers who were part of the original breakaway fleet. Despite that, Illich is a layered character, and over the course of Tiamat's wrath, we get to see two sides of him, the admirable mentor and the dickhead army man. I'll go into more detail about his character some other time, I think, but for now let's just talk about his death and why it's satisfying. He may not have pulled the trigger, but he is there when Amos is killed, and Amos wants revenge, so there's that. And then he had to go and threaten Muskrat, didn't he? The prick. He has Holden and Teresa cornered on a mountainside with two guards in a cart behind him. When Teresa won't budge, he points the pistol at Muskrat, but before he fires, there's a commotion in the cart. It's hard to see what's going on, but the quick answer is the newly invincible Amos just fucks some motherfuckers up, snapping necks before charging at Illich and flattening him to the ground. Illich managed to get a shot off into Amos's rib, but he barely notices and doesn't even bleed. Illich lies on the floor winded, and Amos asks Teresa if he is a friend. It takes her a moment, but she understands the question and answers no, so Amos fires 2 rounds into Illich. Where they hit is entirely up to the reader. Teeth and balls. Number 7, Ren. Now, I gave Ren an honourable mention in my best deaths list, and I stand by that, but his death is also a badass and nasty, memorable kill. So let's keep it simple. Ren is a technician working with Melba who is about to find out about her bomb and her conspiracy, so she has to kill him. She tells him to take a good look at something she found, some data or something, and while he is bending over, the back of his neck is on show. She activates her implants and just fucking Bruce Lee's the poor bastard, snapping his neck. The book says she kept striking him with her palm, but I personally imagine it as continuous karate chops, because why not? It's still her palm after all. It's a quick and brutal death, and hopefully not too painful for the poor fella. He spends the rest of the book decomposing in Melba's locker, and then later a crate on the Thomas Prince. Nasty stuff. Number 6, Dr. Strickland. The only people I want to see as much pain and death inflicted on as possible, more than Laconians and the odd Free Navy goon, is those protogen bastards, especially the ones who happily experiment on innocent, handicapped children. When Prax and Amos find Strickland and the kids on Io Station, Strickland quickly shoots his security bitch in the face, drops his gun and plays the old, "Oh, thank God you came, they were keeping me against my will, I was only stalling and trying to keep the children alive," bollocks. Even if Amos and Prax hadn't heard their conversation from round the corner, they wouldn't be fooled, especially not Amos anyway. After a sedated May and her father are reunited, Amos calls bullshit on Strickland, who pulls the victim card, like he literally says, "I'm the victim here." What a douchebag. Prax knows too well that the good doctor only kept May alive because she was plastered all over the news feeds, but despite all that's happened, all he has lost and been through, Prax lowers his pistol. He doesn't need revenge, he has his daughter back. Strickland blows out a deep exhalation of relief and pleasure before Amos blows his head the fuck away and then just shrugs. Absolute classic Amos, what a bloke. Number 5, Anthony Dresden. Anthony Dresden was one of Protogen's top scientists and protomolecule experts, if there are any, and kind of a charismatic bastard to boot. So charismatic, in fact, that when he and Toff Station had been captured, he begins to make his epic and definitely rehearsed speech about the protomolecule and the future of mankind and what he is trying to achieve. And the scary thing is, while his tone barely restrains his condescension, he is almost entirely convincing. While no sane person with a conscience is going to condone the Eros experiment, the life-changing, game-changing possibilities of the protomolecule are almost endless, and no one should be judged for wanting to see what happens next. But what does happen next is awesome. As Dresden comes to the end of his speech, he begins to talk negotiation. That's when Miller, who has been silent during his whole pitch, says, "Okay, that's enough," before raising his pistol and blowing the sociopathic scientist's brains the fuck out. Then he plants 2 more rounds in his chest just to make sure the fucker's dead. Number 4, Unnamed Martian Marine. So this is easily one of the quickest and most terrifying deaths on this list. This poor Marine had no idea what hit him. While trying to kill Holden inside the ring station, the insect-like drone comes to life and aids Holden. Bullets prove useless as they are stopped in mid-air, so one Marine fires his grenade launcher instead. The grenade damages the drone in the floor, and suddenly a dozen other drones come to life and start attacking. They lift the Marine gently into the air, the one who fired the grenade, and just rip him into shreds, absolute shreds, before they turn him into plaster filler and seal up the damage he did on the floor. Unforgettable and totally fucked. It's also worth noting that this Marine's actions is what caused the ring station to stop the rest of the ships, killing and injuring a lot of people, so whether he deserved it or not is up to you. Number 3, Chief Engineer Conan. One of my favourite and most memorable, hilarious kills in the Expanse is that of Chief Engineer I Wanna Suck Mercury's Dick Conan. To be honest, I already covered it completely in my Cybola Burn video, but fuck it, I love this bit. Conan was a loudmouth asshole who, like Mercury, used his orders as an excuse to manifest his trigger happiness. During the climactic orbital action sequence of Cybola Burn, while Bazio is trying to save the crew of the Barber Piccola, he has the idea to attach multiple inflatable airlocks together, but they don't have any. Havelock convinces Captain Marwick of the Edward Israel to help out, and he agrees. That's when Conan starts going mental, and as he starts to threaten the lives of his own crew that tried to aid the enemy, he is cut off mid-sentence as Alex shreds him to smithereens with a railgun blast. A wicked kill that's topped off by one of Alex Camel's best moments. He lays the Martian drawl on heavy and thick and expresses the falsest of sympathy. "Sorry guys, that was me, but that guy was pissing me off and I had the shot. Am I in trouble?" No mate, your only transgression was not doing it sooner. Number 2, Protomolecule Hybrids. Bobby Draper almost made the top of both of my lists, and in a way she did, except there is one exceptional mega kill that cannot be ignored, or at least I can't ignore it. Towards the climax of Caliban's war, Bobby has a wicked fight with a proto-molecule hybrid soldier, super soldier, monster thing, which I will simply refer to as hybrid, before finishing it off in style. Although the hybrid isn't the same one that killed Bobby's team, the catharsis is there all the same. The fight begins with Bobby staying behind on the surface of Io while Amos and Prax head inside the station. The hybrid is about 300 meters away and moving very slowly and curiously. She blows it a kiss and says, "I'm back, sweetie, come say hi to mama." She fires 50 incendiary rounds at it with 100% accuracy, doing great damage that didn't heal up this time, but it doesn't even seem to notice anyway. It runs straight at her, so she runs sideways at a 90-degree angle from its path. It tries to turn to follow, but it loses its ground. Bobby says something witty, the hybrid changes method and just tears up a chunk of the surface like Kratos in a Spartan rage and chucks it at her. She's ready for it this time and dodges out of the way, spraying it with hundreds of rounds as she does, almost blowing the hybrid's arm clean off. It collapses onto the ground and Bobby celebrates, thinking the self-destruction bomb is about to go off, but instead the hybrid jumps to its feet, rips out the bomb from its own abdomen and throws it at her. Bobby is caught off guard and the explosion blows her off her feet and sends her skidding along the surface, heavily damaging her suit. The suit's motion control processor was failing and therefore she can't move, she can't lift her arms or even turn her head. Suddenly the hybrid is looming over her and studying her curiously. It starts to poke at her armor with a large finger, then vomits brown goo all over her. Bobby knows the hybrid could rip her apart easily, but chances are it sees the benefits of taking over her instead. A long, flexible tube bursts out of its midsection and begins probing at her, trying to find gaps in her armor. Her guns are working, but she cannot move, so she says, "Oh, to hell with this," and uses all her incredible human strength to lift her arm up toward the hybrid, like a one-armed bench press in a lead glove. Something pops, either in her armor or suit, but either way she gets her arm up and pushes her fist against the hybrid's head. "Bye-bye," she says, and unloads into its face, completely destroying it from the shoulders up. Seconds later, the suit comes back online and all she can do is laugh. What a great moment, and definitely one of the best character moments and one-to-one kills. Only one thing can top it in my eyes. Number 1. Everything in the slow zone. My top spot is going to the most jaw-dropping, eye-widening moment the Expanse has to offer. Well, at least top 3 in my opinion, anyway. We have no real comprehension about what the unknown aggressors are, we can only speculate. However, we do know one thing. They are extremely dangerous and are not to be fucked with. Dwart fucked with, and everyone paid, or is going to pay at least, the price. But none more than those who were in the slow zone during their first real attack. After the whole Tacoma incident, in which the unknown aggressors set off a neutron star, destroying 2 rings in the process, and indefinitely altering the ring space, we are given arguably the biggest and scariest event in the whole series thus far, dubbed the Slow Zone Catastrophe. Not long after the Laconian science ship the Falcon makes it back to the ring space and the Tacoma star goes supernova, the universe as LV Okoye knows it explodes, and the unknown aggressors begin their attack. LV sees everything in that space between the atoms, clouds of gas and molecules perspective that she first experienced on Islus when she fell through the magic bullet, and seen again by Salvatore and Marco when the ring gates ate them, and once again by those during Laconia's takeover when the Tempest fired its field projector. One can only assume that everyone in the slow zone witnessed such an attack. During this time, the unknown aggressors, described as tendrils of darkness, swirling and dancing, dart from ship to ship, eating or clawing or whatever it is they actually do at all the bulkheads and flesh they find, anything that is human or man-made. It is utterly terrifying. Having been in this space once before, LV manages to keep her cool and shouts her voice-activated evacuation code to the ship, which then starts burning towards the Laconia gate, and then out of it and back to reality. There is a softball-sized chunk missing from LV's thigh. One of Fayez's feet is missing, half of Admiral Sagali's head and shoulder is missing, sound familiar, and most of the crew are dead or injured. The ship has been badly damaged, the bridge a nightmare, Swaths of bulkhead, deck and equipment were missing, as if an artist had come in with an eraser and taken away bits at random. Ugh, that sounds fucked. But due to the nature of the Falcon's design, the self-healing properties managed to keep the air from rushing out, and LV's calm-headedness and quick thinking saved the ship, which cannot be said for the rest inside the slow zone. Medina Station, the Eye of the Typhoon, all the civilian ships, and everything that was human or man-made had vanished or been eaten. Again, whatever it is they actually do. This is catastrophic for all sides, because, no one wins here. The only upside is that Laconia loses the most, and whether it was worth it is up to the reader. I fucking love this series, yo. I cannot wait for the next book, and I haven't got a clue what is going to happen next, only that I will shit myself when it does. So, that's my list, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, and share, or don't. I won't force you, although I would if I could, you freeloading bastards. Feel free to tell me what I missed or judge wrongly in the comments. I always reply. And remember, folks, liquor doesn't make you feel better, just makes you not so worried about feeling bad. Peace.